Welcome to this short video introducing the e-learning course Discovering English with VersaText. The video is in two parts. The first introduces some aspects of language education that relate to making the most of the VersaText program. The second part introduces the e-learning site and how to get started in the course. VersaText is a free online program. It is available on the web and it is very simple to use. The idea is that you paste in a text that you're using with your students, and using some corpus techniques, you process the text. To make the most of it, we really need to think about what our view is of language and linguistics, what we think of language acquisition, how students and how we actually learn language, and how we acquire language, and what the differences and similarities are, and of course some aspects of practical pedagogy. So we'll go through these three areas briefly, one at a time. In terms of linguistics, and linguistics in the context of VersaText, one of the things that we are working with is text, and there are many aspects of text that can be explored using VersaText once you have a repertoire of concepts that are worth imparting to students. The second and third aspects, vocabulary and grammar, are traditionally regarded as two quite separate areas, and in many cases they deserve to be. But there are also many aspects of vocabulary and grammar which are a little bit of one or the other. And that's why we have this continuum here. Everything in between. So these are just some examples of language that are regarded as grammar or vocabulary, but as you can see by their position on this continuum, some of them belong more to grammar and some of them belong more to vocabulary, and some of them are just kind of halfway in between. So what we're looking for in terms of enriching students' language is we're looking for the patterns and relationships that exist between vocabulary items with aspects of grammar, and how these relate to each other, and how they actually manifest in the text which is being studied. So we're looking for patterns and relationships above all. Now, these relate, of course, to the 4 skills and 4 systems of language teaching. In terms of language acquisition, some of the areas that we will delve into in the course cover the similarities and differences between teaching, learning, and acquiring. Because we're working with a single text, then we're putting our students in a situation to learn language from language. And this involves discovery learning, which in turn revolves around guided discovery. Students are required to notice things, to make observations about language from which they can learn. The input hypothesis plays a big role in this, because working with text, that is input. And the output hypothesis is also important. This is where we notice our gaps when we're actually producing language, when we're speaking and writing. The role of errors is always important because they're very good markers of progress, and they're also great sources of learning. They're a great stimulus to learning, our awareness of errors. And also we're interested in the plateau. Now the plateau is particularly for students sort of above B1, B2 areas, etc. You kind of get on a level where you can communicate, you can read and write and speak and listen, but in order to really become much better, quite a different approach to studying and learning is required. So we'll look at some aspects of that. In terms of pedagogy, we've got this lovely phrase, if the teacher does all the work, ... And I've seen many teachers over the years in my teacher training sessions complete this sentence in very interesting ways. But the essence is the students actually have to do some work because they're the ones who are learning. So we're all very familiar with tasks of a communicative nature, things like buying a railway ticket, organising a birthday party, these types of communicative tasks. But we're looking here primarily at linguistic tasks. So the students make their observations, they do so in groups, they draw their conclusions, they have to negotiate their findings with their classmates, and then they have to present them. So they have this idea of linguistic tasks has many things in common with communicative tasks. It's just that the subject matter of the task is actually an aspect of language. We also think about developing students' learner autonomy. It's very important that they learn how to learn, and given that teachers have learnt English, then students can expect that their teachers will be able to give them some good advice. So advice includes things like goal setting, marking off as you achieve goals, determining how well you've achieved each goal, etc. We also need to train students to reflect, because as Dewey says, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. And so when the students have perhaps performed their linguistic tasks, then they need to actually go back over the steps that they went through, think about how they learnt what they learnt, and these help consolidate the learning. The CEFR framework is obviously very important in language education, and we will look at some aspects of that. And a very interesting dichotomy is the difference between learning something and performing it. So are you at this stage of your lesson in your learning zone, or are you in your performing zone? And separating these two things is quite an important thing, and we look into that with some detail during the course, and we look at implementing it. In the last unit of the course, we work with materials. We actually create materials. By the time we get to Unit 10, everybody will be well aware of these three aspects of language education that we're looking at the moment in this presentation. And we will also have had quite a lot of experience with the tools, with making screenshots, uploading, sharing, commenting, observing. So we are well primed to create materials and lesson plans. It's also worth pointing out that these four acronyms, CLIL, STEM, ESP and EMI, all represent areas of language education which VersaText can serve very well. All of those areas work with text, students' involvement in the texts for learning content, and in the process of learning the content of the text, there is a huge amount of language work which can be done. And this course is an e-learning course, and it is a very interactive e-learning course. There's a lot of processing of the material in various interactive ways. You get to share and compare your professional experiences, because what you bring to a course is extremely important. And how you contextualize the new input obviously impacts on how you process it, how you learn it. Not everything you read, not everything you hear, you accept because of your belief systems, which are based on your view of language acquisition, and of language pedagogy. And one of the things that we do in the e-learning course is that we create our own wiki pages, and these are opportunities for sharing and commenting on each other's work. So that was a very quick introduction to some of the aspects of the course and what underpins the course. And now, in the second part of the video, we'll start looking at aspects of the e-learning site itself. So what you need to do to get started, and how the units of the coursework function. So here is the URL that you go to, moodle.versatile.pub, and then you will be able to log in, assuming you've filled in the online form. So this is the first thing you see once you have logged in. You'll see these squares here, and the boxes do different things. So each of these boxes has its own description, so we won't go through those. You can read those yourself. But of interest here at the moment is the New Here box. When you click on that, it takes you to the First Timers section of the handbook. And the handbook contains many details about sections of the site and how it works. It is also accessible from this menu, which is at the top of every page in the whole site. This is the table of contents of the handbook, and you will first come to the First Timers section when you click on the blue box that we just looked at on the previous slide. And you'll see here that it's got your profile. So you need to fill that in. That's a very important part of e-learning, is letting your fellow course participants know who they're communing with. And adding a picture to your profile also is a nice aspect of personalizing it. There's a section here called Your Preferences, and the handbook explains about these things. And this is very important to establish at the outset because it influences how you and the system interact. And another thing is notifications. As you work with the system will send you notifications to your email or to your phone and within the system itself. So you can customize that. So it takes a bit of time, but it's really worth doing to make your e-learning experience as positive as possible. So once you're in the course, or in fact to get into the course, you can click on the box which is on the home page, this For Teachers box, and choose the VersaText for Teachers course once you've clicked on that. You can also choose courses from the dashboard, and you can also choose them from this quick nav. You will see the course listed there. So this purple navigation appears at the top of every page of the site. Once you're in the course, at the top you will see this row of buttons, and the green one just brings you to the home page of the course. There's also the social aspect, where this is a forum where you can say hello to everybody, and you can do anything you like there in terms of communing with your fellow course participants. So just click on that and it will take you to that forum. The news, this is for the announcements that your course tutors will make, and you will see there, click on those and you'll see the details. In the files, there are PDFs which you can download and print out as necessary, and these are referred to during the course of the course. The questions and comments forum, this allows you to give any feedback, describe any problems, or even comment on anything that you found delightful or interesting that you would like to share with your tutors and with your fellow course participants. Now the wiki, this is actually in essence the course. It contains all of the course content, the links, the instructions, the navigation, and a lot of other things as well. But it doesn't really contain the content in terms of the information for the course that is in the wiki, which we'll have a look at in a moment. Sorry, not the wiki, in the Kindle, which we'll have a look at the moment. And also, a very important part of doing any course is note-taking. Now, you can use this personal wiki if you wish. The personal wiki means that only you and your tutors can see it, your course participants. You can't see each other's, but you can create your own wiki. And if you do this methodically, you might even like to download it, and there's a button for that where you can download it as an EPUB file, which means you can read it in your own e-reader such as Kindle, You can also print it as a book, save it as a PDF, etc. So you can actually create your own little book as you're working through the course. Now, I mentioned the Kindle a moment ago. The Kindle houses all of the actual information content of the course, the bulk of the content. In fact, you could even read the book alone. It's just that you'd miss out on the interactive experiences that we've already been talking about. So click on the link in this box, which is at the top of the course, and you'll be able to buy the Kindle book yourself. That will be necessary to get going with the course. So this is the first unit of the course, and they all have this format. There's a nice big circular picture, and then there's a little bit of welcoming text describing what's in the unit. And below that, there is this box of steps that you take. So click on number 1 and you will find out what to do. Click on the GSQs and you will get to do these getting started questions. And these are really important. They're in every unit and they let you think about things that you are bringing to the course and bringing to the topic of this particular unit. Because as we know, everybody doing such a course already has a huge amount of experience. So this is an opportunity for you to articulate your thoughts, but it is a forum. They're all forums, these GSQs. So you get to talk electronically about these with your classmates. And then there will be other things that you can click on. They're not all 1, 2, 3, 4, but Introduction to VersaText is what you will find in the first one. That will open the VersaText wiki and will contain information and instructions and diagrams and videos and links to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage of the course. And at the end of each unit there is a summary task. So one of the most important things about an e-learning course, which makes it different from just reading the book, is interaction. So you'll be reading and processing material, you'll be discussing things in forums, you'll be sharing things that you create in a wiki, and you'll be working with each other in various ways. And of course, your course tutor will be present, keeping an eye on everything, and will comment as necessary. So hopefully it won't feel like you're all working in isolation all over the world. Hopefully it'll feel more like this, that you are all as if in a much smaller place. The world can be a smaller place. Everybody working together. That's the end of this quick introduction. Click on the moodle.versatile.pub site and you can enter the course in the ways described. Very much looking forward to seeing you there.